The morning started like any other. The sun peeked through the thin curtains, casting a soft golden light across the small apartment. She woke up earlier than usual, as she always did, careful not to wake her children. There were always so many things to do. Breakfast needed to be prepared, lunches packed, and school uniforms checked. Even before the coffee machine had finished brewing, she was already moving around, her mind full of lists and reminders. Her life was a constant rhythm of duties. She worked long hours in a small office, handling calls, emails, and paperwork, and then rushed home to be the mother her children needed. There were days when she barely had a moment to breathe, but she never complained. Her children's laughter, their small achievements at school, and even their tired little faces at the end of the day were her motivation. That morning, while trying to manage a dozen things at once, she made a small mistake. She typed out a message quickly, responding to what she thought was a friend's question about some work advice. In her rush, she sent it to the wrong email address. She didn't notice immediately. She simply continued with her morning, helping her children with breakfast, tying shoelaces, and reminding them to pack everything for school. It was only later, when she had a brief pause in her office, that she realized what had happened. Her heart sank for a moment. Was it a problem? Would it cause trouble? She couldn't imagine that such a small slip could matter much. Life, however, has a way of surprising people. The email she thought had gone to a colleague had instead landed in the inbox of someone very unexpected. A billionaire who rarely checked emails from strangers had happened to open it. The message was simple, honest, and unpolished. It didn't sound like a pitch or a complaint. It was just her explaining a situation and seeking advice, though she had no idea who would actually read it. There was a quiet authenticity in her words, the kind that could touch someone even through a screen. Back at her apartment, she was finishing her coffee when her phone rang. It was an unknown number, one that made her pause. Usually, she ignored such calls, but something made her pick it up. On the other end, a calm, confident voice greeted her. She froze for a moment, unsure if this was real or some kind of prank. But as the voice continued, speaking kindly and showing a genuine interest in her story, she realized this was no ordinary call. She listened, hardly believing what she was hearing. The voice on the other end asked about her children, her work, and even her daily struggles. There was no judgment, no condescension, just a simple human curiosity and concern. It was strange for her, being heard by someone who had so much power and influence. Normally, people in her life focused on what they could get from her, not on her own experiences. Yet here was someone who seemed to genuinely care. The call was short, but it left her in a daze. She could barely focus on her tasks afterward, her mind replaying the conversation again and again. She wondered why this person had reached out to her. Was it a coincidence? Or did something in her message resonate in a way she couldn't understand? The idea that a small mistake, something so ordinary, could lead to such an extraordinary moment seemed impossible. The rest of the day passed in a blur. She went through her usual routine, but everything felt different. The mundane tasks of laundry, grocery shopping, and homework supervision seemed lighter, somehow. She found herself smiling at small things, the way her youngest tried to balance on one foot while putting on socks. The way her eldest explained a school project with serious concentration. Life hadn't changed yet, but she felt a shift inside her, a tiny spark of something hopeful and unexpected. That evening, after tucking her children into bed, she sat quietly at the kitchen table. She replayed the call in her mind, wondering what it could possibly mean. Part of her worried about being too hopeful, about imagining possibilities that might never come true. But another part of her allowed herself to dream, to imagine that this was the start of something different. She thought about the life she had been working so hard to build for her children, the dreams she had set aside, and the challenges she had faced alone. Could a simple mistake really open a door to a new chapter? The days that followed were filled with anticipation and uncertainty. She continued her work, trying to stay focused, but there was always a lingering thought in the back of her mind. Would there be another call? Would this lead somewhere? Or had it been a fleeting moment of attention that would fade away? She tried to remain practical, telling herself not to get carried away, yet she couldn't help but hope. Meanwhile, the person who had received her email was also thinking about her. Something about her honesty and her resilience left a mark. In a world where most messages were filtered, ignored, or full of self-promotion, this one stood out. It was a reminder of the real struggles people face, the simple humanity that often gets lost in wealth and business. The call had been brief, but it was enough to spark curiosity and interest. Enough to consider whether there might be a way to help, to connect, to do something unexpected. As she moved through her daily life, she began noticing little things differently. The small victories at work seemed more significant. The laughter of her children felt deeper. And even her mistakes felt less like failures and more like opportunities. She thought about the email she had sent and the ripple effect it had started. It was astonishing how something so ordinary could create a chain of events that no one could have predicted. That week, she found herself reflecting more on her own journey. She remembered the nights she had stayed up worrying about bills, the mornings she had rushed to prepare everything for her children, and the countless moments she had pushed herself to keep going. She realized that, despite the challenges, she had built a life filled with love and resilience. And now, for reasons she could not explain, her life was poised to intersect with someone whose world was entirely different from hers, even as she went to sleep each night. She thought about the possibilities. There was no certainty, no guarantee that anything would come of it. Yet for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine a future where things might be easier, where her hard work might be recognized in ways beyond the small, daily victories she usually celebrated alone. It was a fragile hope, but a powerful one, planted by a single, unintended email and nurtured by an unexpected human connection. The week ended, and life seemed to resume its usual rhythm. Yet beneath the surface, something had shifted. She carried herself with a quiet awareness that life could change in a moment, that even mistakes could hold the seeds of opportunity. And though she didn't yet know what the future would hold, she felt ready to face it, to embrace whatever came next, and to see where this strange, unexpected connection might lead. In the end, it was a simple truth. Life is unpredictable. A small slip, a rushed email, a moment of honesty. Any of these could set off a series of events that no one could foresee. And sometimes when people least expect it, the universe responds, bringing the right person at the right time into their life. She didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning of a journey that would test her, surprise her, and ultimately change her life in ways she had never imagined. The days after the unexpected call felt strange yet thrilling. Every time her phone rang, her heart would beat faster, half hoping, half fearing that it might be him again. But life had to continue. Work was demanding, and her children needed her attention constantly. Still, she could not shake the feeling that something extraordinary was happening. She tried to focus on her routine, but her mind wandered. During lunch breaks, she would sit quietly in the office thinking about the conversation she had had. His voice was calm and kind, and there had been an unexpected warmth in it. It was not the way rich and powerful people usually spoke. They rarely took time to listen, yet he had listened to her. He had asked about her struggles, her children, and her dreams. Even though it had been just a brief call, it had left her with a strange sense of hope. Her children noticed a change in her mood. She smiled more, laughed more, and seemed lighter despite the constant demands of daily life. They didn't understand why, of course, but they enjoyed seeing her happy. The youngest would often sneak little hugs when she was busy with chores, and the eldest would watch her with a quiet curiosity. There was something different in the air, a sense that something bigger than usual was about to happen. Meanwhile, the billionaire had been thinking about her too. Her message had lingered in his mind, a small spark that refused to fade. He had heard many stories, seen countless people, and yet something about her honesty and resilience had touched him. She had not asked for money, not asked for favors, not even tried to impress. She had simply shared her reality, and it was raw and human. In a world full of polished presentations and rehearsed words, that simple truth had drawn his attention. One morning, she received another call. The same calm, confident voice greeted her again, but this time there was a subtle excitement in it. He wanted to know more about her day-to-day life, the challenges she faced, and the small victories she celebrated. She listened carefully, sharing stories about her children, her work, and the small moments that made life meaningful. She spoke openly, without pretense, and found that the conversation flowed naturally. There was no judgment, only curiosity and understanding. It felt strange to be speaking to someone so influential in such a personal way. Normally, people of his status seemed distant, untouchable. Yet here he was, listening as though every word mattered. She began to realize that this was not just a fleeting moment of attention. There was a genuine interest in understanding her life. And that realization brought both excitement and nervousness. Over the next few days, she reflected on what this attention might mean. She wondered if he could actually help her, or if it was simply a human gesture, a brief connection with no real consequence. She wanted to remain practical, not let hope blind her to reality. But her heart could not help but imagine a different future, one where the challenges she faced might be eased and where her children could experience opportunities she had always dreamed of for them. Her colleagues noticed a subtle change in her energy. She seemed more focused and confident, as if the conversation had given her an invisible strength. Even small tasks at work felt manageable. She started to approach problems differently, thinking creatively, rather than feeling trapped by routine. This newfound confidence spilled over into her home life as well. She took time to play with her children, help them with school projects, and listen to their stories in ways she hadn't before. She realized that even a small shift in her perspective could create meaningful changes in the people around her at the same time. The billionaire had begun to observe her more closely through the lens of genuine curiosity. He asked his assistants to learn more about her daily life, not in an intrusive way, but to understand the person who had captured his attention. He wanted to see if there was a way to support her, to offer help that would truly make a difference rather than a simple, superficial gesture. This was unusual for him. He was used to dealing with problems through resources and power, not by personal connection. Yet something about her story made him pause and reconsider how he approached people in general. One afternoon, she received an unexpected message. It was short, friendly, and invited her to share more about her life in a relaxed conversation. She hesitated at first, unsure if she should accept, worried about crossing boundaries or getting involved in something that might complicate her life. But curiosity and a quiet hope won over. She agreed, realizing that this could be a rare opportunity to be heard in a way she never had before. The next call was longer than the first. She spoke about her childhood, her dreams before life's responsibilities had taken over, and her deepest hopes for her children. She spoke honestly about her fears and frustrations, about the moments when she felt overwhelmed, and about the small victories that kept her going. She realized that speaking openly, without fear of judgment, was liberating. It reminded her of the power of honesty and human connection, even with someone whose life seemed so far removed from her own. He listened attentively, asking questions that reflected genuine interest. There was no rush, no pressure, only a quiet patience that allowed her to speak freely. She began to notice subtle patterns in the conversation. He was not just interested in her challenges, but also in her resilience. He seemed to admire the way she balanced so much, the way she kept going despite difficulties, and the way she cherished small moments of joy. It was an unusual dynamic, one that made her feel valued and respected in a way she had rarely experienced. After the call, she felt a mix of emotions: gratitude, excitement, and a nervous anticipation of what might come next. She returned to her routine, but with a sense of possibility she had not felt in years. The ordinary tasks of life now seemed like stepping stones rather than obstacles. She began to imagine a future where the constraints of her current life might be eased, where her hard work might be recognized, and where her children could thrive in ways she had only dreamed of. She also noticed that her children seemed to sense the change. They were more willing to share their thoughts and feelings, inspired by her openness and newfound energy. Her home, usually filled with the usual chaos and tension, began to feel lighter. She found herself laughing more with her children, celebrating small achievements and embracing everyday moments with renewed enthusiasm. It was as if her hope and energy were contagious, spreading warmth and positivity throughout her family. The following week, she received another unexpected message. This time, it was an invitation to meet, not in a formal setting, but in a casual, relaxed way. The billionaire wanted to discuss ideas and possibilities, not as a transaction, but as a conversation between two human beings. She felt nervous, uncertain about what to expect, but also quietly excited. The thought of meeting someone she had only spoken to on the phone seemed surreal. Yet she could not deny the curiosity and hope growing inside her. She spent hours preparing herself mentally for the meeting, reflecting on her life, her dreams, and her values. She wanted to present herself honestly, without pretension, and to ensure that her children's needs and her own aspirations were clear. She reminded herself that this was not just about opportunity. It was about human connection, understanding, and respect. The thought of being seen and heard in such a genuine way motivated her and gave her confidence she hadn't felt in a long time. When the day finally arrived, she felt a mixture of nerves and anticipation. She thought about the long journey that had brought her to this moment, the small slip that had started it all, the honest words she had shared, and the brief yet profound conversations that had opened doors she had never imagined. She understood that life could change in unexpected ways, and that even mistakes could lead to extraordinary opportunities as she prepared to leave. She looked around her apartment, at the life she had built with determination and love. She thought about her children, their laughter, and their hopes. She realized that whatever happened next, she had already learned an important lesson: honesty, resilience, and courage could connect people in ways that power and wealth alone never could. And with that thought, she stepped out, ready to meet someone who might change her life forever, unaware that this encounter would be just the beginning of a journey full of surprises, challenges, and remarkable moments. The day she was to meet him arrived with a strange mix of nerves and excitement. She had dressed carefully, choosing clothes that were simple but neat, hoping to appear confident without trying too hard. Her children had wished her luck, hugging her tightly and giving her small words of encouragement that warmed her heart. Even as she stepped out of her apartment, the city around her felt different. Every street, every passing face seemed sharper, more alive, as if the world was noticing her in a new way. She arrived at the agreed location, a quiet cafe tucked away from the usual bustling streets. It was not extravagant or intimidating, but comfortable and calm. It's the kind of place where conversations could flow naturally. She entered, looking around, and saw him waiting at a corner table. Despite his presence, he appeared relaxed and approachable, a stark contrast to the image she had imagined of a billionaire. There was a warmth in his smile that immediately put her at ease. They greeted each other with a simple handshake and a smile. There was no formal introduction, no need for titles or explanations. The conversation began naturally, first about small things: the cafe, the weather, the city outside. She noticed how he listened, really listened, as if every word mattered. She felt a strange sense of being seen, understood, and valued. It was unlike any other interaction she had experienced. As they settled into the conversation, he began to ask about her life in detail. She spoke about her work, the challenges of raising children alone, and the struggles she faced every day. She described the moments when she felt overwhelmed, the nights when worry kept her awake, and the constant balancing act she had to maintain. He asked questions with genuine interest, not out of curiosity but because he wanted to understand her world. She found herself opening up more than she expected, sharing thoughts and feelings she had kept to herself for years. He also asked about her children, their dreams and their personalities. She told him stories about them, the little quirks that made them unique, and the moments that brought her joy. There was laughter, a few quiet pauses, and a growing sense of connection. She realized that in this conversation, she was not just telling her story to a powerful person. She was sharing her life with someone who cared. It was human, raw, and comforting. The discussion slowly shifted to her aspirations. She spoke about the dreams she had once held, the ones she had set aside due to responsibility and circumstance. She admitted her fears about pursuing them now, feeling that time had passed and opportunities had slipped away. He listened attentively, never interrupting, never judging, only encouraging her to explore what was possible. His presence was reassuring, a reminder that hope could be rekindled even in unexpected ways. He shared some of his own experiences, not as a boast, but to illustrate lessons learned and the importance of resilience. He spoke about the challenges he had faced, the mistakes he had made, and the unexpected turns that had shaped his life. Through his stories, she saw a different side of wealth and success, one that acknowledged vulnerability and the value of perseverance. It was enlightening, showing her that even those who seemed untouchable had human struggles and triumphs. The hours passed unnoticed. Conversation flowed from personal stories to ideas about life, work, and family. She realized that this was not just a meeting. It was an exchange of experiences, connection between two people who had never met before but were now sharing pieces of their lives. The ordinary, mundane routines of her existence felt distant, replaced by the extraordinary feeling of being heard and understood. At one point, she felt a wave of nervousness. She wondered if she had said too much, revealed too much of herself. But his reaction was always kind and thoughtful, never critical. He asked questions that made her reflect deeper, helped her see her life and challenges from a new perspective. She felt seen, not for her mistakes or her struggles, but for the strength and honesty she carried despite them. They spoke about her children's future, and she admitted her worries about providing them with opportunities she never had. He listened, then gently suggested ways she might help her children explore their talents, giving them experiences that would enrich their lives. She was amazed at how practical and thoughtful his advice was. Not extravagant or unrealistic, but grounded in reality and genuine care. It was the kind of guidance she had never received before. As the meeting drew to a close, she felt a mixture of gratitude and anticipation. She realized how rare it was to meet someone who combined success with empathy, someone who could listen deeply and offer insight without imposing. The experience left her feeling lighter, as if a weight she had carried for years had been eased. She understood that this connection had already changed her perspective, giving her a renewed sense of confidence and possibility. After leaving the cafe, she walked slowly through the streets, absorbing the ordinary sights with new awareness. The city seemed more vibrant, more full of potential. She thought about her children and how she could bring some of this newfound inspiration into their lives. Even the small gestures at home, helping with homework, encouraging creativity, listening with patience, now carried a deeper significance. She realized that this meeting was not just about her future. It was about how she would influence and shape the lives of those she loved most. That evening, she returned home with a sense of quiet determination. She prepared dinner with care, helped her children with school projects, and listened to their stories with a full heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of possibility that went beyond mere hope. She felt empowered, capable of navigating her challenges with new insight and energy. The meeting had not solved her problems, but it had given her something equally important: clarity, encouragement, and a renewed belief in herself. In the following days, she found herself thinking about the conversation repeatedly. She reflected on the lessons, the advice, and the genuine human connection she had experienced. It was a reminder that life could be unpredictable, that opportunities could emerge in ways one least expected, and that even those with extraordinary power could have a human touch. She began to plan small changes, ideas for her children, and steps to improve her own life. These plans were humble but meaningful, grounded in reality yet inspired by new possibilities. Meanwhile, he too reflected on the meeting. He admired her resilience, her honesty, and her ability to maintain hope despite challenges. He recognized that their connection had the potential to grow into something more meaningful, not just as a momentary interaction, but as a genuine relationship that could impact both their lives. He considered ways to support her journey, not through grand gestures or charity, but through thoughtful, practical actions that respected her dignity and empowered her. As the story continued to unfold, she felt the first hints of a life that could be different from the one she had known. She still faced challenges, as any mother does, but the meeting had shifted something fundamental within her. It had reminded her that, even in ordinary circumstances, extraordinary connections could occur. It had shown her that honesty, courage, and resilience could open doors in ways she had never imagined. She shared bits of the experience with her children, careful not to overwhelm them with details, but enough to inspire them with hope and possibility. She encouraged them to speak honestly, pursue their interests, and believe in the potential of their own efforts. Slowly, the atmosphere in the home shifted, becoming more optimistic, more encouraging, more alive with possibility. The small moments of everyday life began to carry new meaning. Fused with the sense that change was possible, the experience also taught her an unexpected lesson about human nature. She realized that sometimes reaching out, being authentic, and sharing even small truths could have far-reaching consequences. Her simple mistake, a hurried email sent without much thought, had become the catalyst for a remarkable connection. It reminded her that life is unpredictable, and that sometimes the universe responds in ways that defy logic but make perfect sense in retrospect. By the end of part 3, she had gained more than inspiration. She had gained perspective, confidence, and the courage to think about her life differently. The conversation had not solved all her problems, but it had planted seeds of possibility. She was ready to nurture them, to explore what could come next, and to embrace the changes that were slowly beginning to take shape in her world. She understood that life was full of surprises, and that this meeting was just the beginning of a journey that could transform her life and the lives of her children in ways she could hardly imagine. The days following the meeting were filled with a mixture of excitement and reflection. She went about her life with renewed energy, but now every decision seemed more deliberate, every thought tinged with the possibility of change. The meeting had been more than a conversation, it had been an awakening. She began to see her challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow. Then came an unexpected message. It was clear and simple, yet carried a weight that made her heart race. The billionaire wanted to help in a way that was tangible, meaningful, and practical. He wasn't offering a handout or charity, but an opportunity to improve her life and the lives of her children. She read the message several times, trying to process it. Her mind raced with questions. What exactly did he mean? Could this really be happening? Was she prepared for the changes that might come? She spent the next day thinking carefully. She wanted to respond thoughtfully, not hastily. She reflected on her life, her responsibilities, and the dreams she had shelved long ago. There was fear, of course. Fear of failure, of making the wrong decision, or of becoming dependent on someone else. But alongside that fear, there was excitement. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where her children could have opportunities she had never had, where her own hard work could lead to tangible rewards. When she finally responded, it was with honesty. She thanked him for his consideration, explained her situation, and shared her hopes for the future. Her words were simple, sincere, and human. She did not exaggerate, did not embellish, but spoke from the heart. There was a quiet confidence in her honesty, a trust that this connection was not about impressing or pleasing, but about genuine care and understanding. The reply came quickly. He appreciated her openness and admired her clarity of thought. He proposed a plan that would help her in practical ways, giving her tools and resources to create stability and opportunity. It was not a grand or flashy plan, but one carefully thought out to respect her dignity and empower her. He emphasized that his role was to provide support, not to dictate her choices. This distinction was important to her, made the offer feel real, sincere, and respectful. As the plan began to unfold, she faced the realities of change. There were new schedules to learn, documents to prepare, and decisions to make. It was exciting, yes, but also overwhelming. She often found herself thinking late at night, wondering if she was doing enough, if she could rise to the challenge. Yet, she also found moments of joy and pride. Every small step forward, every decision made with care, felt like a victory. Her children noticed the change in her, and their eyes lit up with hope and curiosity. They began to dream more freely, inspired by their mother's renewed determination. Friends and neighbors soon noticed the shift in her life as well. Some were amazed, curious about the sudden turn of events, while others were skeptical, unsure if this could last or if it was too good to be true. She handled the attention with grace, careful not to boast, but quietly proud of the way things were unfolding. She learned that change often draws attention, that it was possible to navigate it with dignity and focus, keeping her family and values at the center. One evening, she sat with her children, reflecting on the changes that had begun to take place. She shared small pieces of her journey, not to overwhelm them, but to inspire them. She wanted them to understand that opportunities can come unexpectedly, that honesty and perseverance are powerful, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. The children listened attentively, absorbing the lessons in their own way. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that she was not only building a better life for herself, but also shaping the future for them. As she navigated these changes, she also faced personal growth. She discovered new strengths, new ways of thinking, and a deeper understanding of her own resilience. She learned to trust her instincts, to make decisions confidently, and to embrace uncertainty as part of life's journey. The billionaire's support had opened doors, but the true transformation was happening within her. She was becoming more self-assured, more proactive, and more hopeful. The process was not without challenges. There were moments of doubt, times when progress seemed slow, and decisions that felt risky. She had to balance her responsibilities at work, her children's needs, and the new opportunities unfolding before her. Yet, she faced each challenge with determination. Leaning on the lessons she had learned and the support she had been offered, she realized that life is rarely linear, and that perseverance and patience were essential to creating lasting change. In the midst of this journey, she also began to think about giving back, about using her experience to help others. She reflected on the struggles she had faced and the guidance she had received. Recognizing the value of empathy and support, she imagined ways to extend kindness, offer advice, and provide encouragement to people facing similar challenges. The idea of helping others became a motivation, a reminder that her journey was not just about her and her children, but about creating a positive impact in the world around her. The relationship with the billionaire continued to evolve. Grounded in mutual respect and understanding, he remained a source of guidance, offering insight when needed, but always allowing her to lead her own path. She appreciated the balance, understanding that true support is not about control, but about empowerment. This partnership, built on trust and human connection, became a model for how relationships, no matter how different the backgrounds, can flourish when honesty and care are at the center. Throughout this period, she remained mindful of her values and priorities. She did not let the new opportunities distract her from the daily joys and responsibilities of life. She continued to celebrate small achievements, to cherish time with her children, and to maintain the routines that had shaped her family's life. The changes were significant, but they were integrated into her existing life in a way that felt natural and sustainable. She discovered that meaningful growth does not require abandoning what is important, but rather enhancing and building upon it. By the end of Part 4, her life had transformed in subtle but powerful ways. The billionaire's support had opened doors, but the true change was in her mindset, her confidence, and her ability to envision a brighter future. She had learned that opportunities often come in unexpected forms, that human connection can be transformative, and that perseverance, honesty, and resilience are invaluable tools for navigating life's challenges. She felt ready to embrace the next chapter, knowing that the journey was ongoing, full of surprises, and shaped by the choices she made each day. Her story was no longer just about survival or routine, it was about growth, hope, and the power of unexpected opportunities. She understood that life's twists and turns, even those that began with mistakes or small slips, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. With determination in her heart and her children's well-being as her guiding light, she stepped forward into the possibilities that lay ahead. Prepared to face whatever challenges and joys the future might bring, the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months. Her life, once a constant blur of responsibilities and worry, had slowly transformed into something she could not have imagined. The support she had received from the billionaire had not just changed her circumstances. It had changed her perspective. She now approached each day with a sense of possibility and a quiet confidence that had been missing for so long. Her children noticed the difference immediately. She had more time to spend with them, more energy to engage in their lives, and a newfound patience that made their days brighter. The smallest things, a game after school, helping with a project, listening to a story, had become moments of connection and joy. They felt the shift in her energy, and it encouraged them to dream bigger, to explore interests and ideas they had never dared before. Her guidance was now infused with hope and vision, and it inspired them to imagine a future that was fuller and brighter at work. She approached challenges with renewed determination. Tasks that once seemed overwhelming now felt manageable, and she found creative solutions to problems that had previously felt insurmountable. Her colleagues began to notice the change as well, seeing her confidence, focus, and quiet leadership. She had become a source of inspiration to those around her, proving that resilience and determination could create meaningful change even in the face of obstacles. The relationship with the billionaire continued to evolve in a natural, supportive way. He remained a presence in her life, not as someone to control or overshadow her journey, but as a guide and mentor, offering insight and encouragement when needed. She learned to balance the opportunities he provided with her own instincts and choices. This partnership, built on mutual respect and trust, became a model for how meaningful connections can grow between people from entirely different worlds when honesty and care are at the center. One of the most significant changes was in her sense of self. She had spent so many years focused on survival, on meeting the immediate needs of her children, and on navigating life's challenges. Now, she began to explore her own dreams and desires again. She enrolled in courses she had always wanted to take, started small personal projects, and found joy in learning and creating. These steps, though modest, were empowering. They reminded her that her life had value beyond her responsibilities, and that she deserved to pursue her own growth alongside that of her children. Her home, once a place of constant rush and tension, had transformed into a space of warmth and possibility. She incorporated routines that encouraged creativity, reflection, and learning. Meals became moments of conversation and laughter. Homework sessions became collaborative explorations, and bedtime stories became opportunities for teaching resilience, kindness, and hope. She realized that transformation was not only about external circumstances, but about the energy and intention she brought into her everyday life. The impact on her children was profound. They began to see their mother not just as a caretaker, but as a role model, someone who faced challenges with courage and embraced opportunities with openness. They started pursuing their interests more seriously, trying new activities, and showing greater confidence in their abilities. They also began to internalize the values she demonstrated: honesty, perseverance, and the willingness to embrace change. These lessons, learned from watching their mother navigate an extraordinary journey, would stay with them for the rest of their lives. In her personal life, she also learned to embrace uncertainty with grace. The support she had received was a reminder that life is unpredictable, and that opportunities often come when least expected. She no longer feared mistakes or unexpected events as much. Instead, she saw them as potential openings, as ways to learn, grow, and connect with others. This mindset allowed her to approach life with courage and optimism. Even when faced with challenges or setbacks, she also discovered a new appreciation for human connection. The experience had shown her that relationships built on trust, honesty, and empathy could have a profound impact. She began nurturing other relationships in her life with the same intentionality, reaching out to friends, colleagues, and neighbors with openness and care. She found that small acts of kindness and attention could ripple outward, creating positive effects that she could not always predict. The billionaire's involvement continued to bring practical changes as well. He provided guidance for career opportunities, educational resources for her children, and strategic advice for long-term planning. But perhaps more importantly, he reinforced the idea that her efforts and dedication were valuable. His recognition and support were validating, but they were also empowering, reinforcing her own belief in her abilities. She understood that success was not just about external assistance, but about integrating support with personal effort, resilience, and vision. Over time, the community around her began to notice the transformation as well. Neighbors and friends admired the changes in her family, curious about the progress she had made. Some sought advice, inspired by her example. She welcomed these interactions, sharing insights and encouragement without judgment. The experience had taught her that empowerment and opportunity were most meaningful when shared, and she embraced the chance to support others as she had been supported. Through it all, she remained grounded in her values. She did not allow the new resources or attention to distract her from what mattered most: her children, her integrity, and her commitment to honest effort. She balanced the extraordinary with the ordinary, ensuring that the foundation of her family life remained strong. She understood that true success was not just about change in circumstances, but about the quality of relationships, personal growth, and the ability to navigate life with integrity. The months continued, and with each passing day, she felt a deepening sense of gratitude. She reflected on the journey, from the small mistake that had sparked the first call to the opportunities and transformations that had followed. She marveled at the unexpected twists of life, at the power of human connection, and at the resilience that had carried her through challenges. She recognized that the journey had been shaped by both chance and choice, by unexpected opportunity and deliberate effort. As she looked to the future, she did so with a sense of hope grounded in experience. She had faced uncertainty, embraced change, and discovered her own strength. She had learned that life's difficulties did not define her, but rather revealed the depth of her resilience. She had learned that connection, honesty, and courage could create opportunities beyond imagination. And she had learned that even the smallest actions, a mistake, a message, a conversation, could spark profound change. Her children, growing alongside her, carried these lessons with them. They had witnessed firsthand the power of perseverance, the value of integrity, and the potential of hope. They had learned that life is unpredictable and that the right mindset combined with effort and guidance could lead to extraordinary outcomes. They were inspired not just by the opportunities presented, but by the example of their mother, whose determination and openness had reshaped their world. In the quiet moments of the evening, she often reflected on how far she had come. She remembered the fear and uncertainty that had once dominated her life. The nights filled with worry and the days weighed down by endless responsibilities. Now, she experienced a sense of balance, a blend of hope, confidence, and groundedness. She understood that life's journey was ongoing, that challenges would continue, but that she was equipped to meet them with resilience and wisdom. Looking back, she recognized that her life had been transformed not by luck alone, but by a combination of courage, honesty, perseverance, and the willingness to embrace opportunity. The support she had received was a catalyst. The change was ultimately rooted in her own efforts, choices, and mindset. She understood that true transformation comes from within, and that external support, while valuable, is most effective when paired with personal determination. The story of her journey spread quietly, inspiring those who heard it. It was not a tale of wealth or privilege, but of human resilience, connection, and the power of unexpected opportunities. People admired the way she navigated change, remained grounded, and nurtured her family and herself. She became a symbol of hope, demonstrating that ordinary people, when faced with extraordinary circumstances, could rise to meet them with courage and grace. In the end, her life was richer not only in resources, but in perspective. She had learned the value of patience, the importance of empathy, and the potential inherent in every moment. She had discovered that mistakes could lead to opportunity, that connection could open doors, and that perseverance and honesty were among the most powerful tools a person could possess. She had created a life that honored her children, respected her values, and embraced the possibilities of the future as she sat one evening with her children. Watching them play and laugh, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had been challenging, unpredictable, and sometimes frightening, but it had also been filled with joy, growth, and discovery. She realized that life's beauty often emerges from the unexpected, from the small moments of courage, and from the connections we forge along the way. And in that moment, surrounded by love and possibility, she understood that the story of her life had been rewritten, not by wealth alone, but by the combination of resilience, human connection, and the willingness to embrace change.